Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. Our goal is to energize your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy Maxfield, Director of Entrepreneur Development Services at the Center for Emerging Technologies.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl Watkins-Moore, Director of Bioscience and Entrepreneurial Inclusion for BioSTL.
Good day, my friend.
Yes,
Hi.
We're back at it again.
Yay. Awesome. This is where I like to be. And this is not only where I like to be because, you know, we often talk about this being the ability to step outside of your comfort zone.
Which we do all the time.
We do, but we've been getting a little comfortable with the podcast. So in the future, whenever you're listening to this, either it'll be in the future for you or you'll be able to go into our archives and take a listen to this. But we're actually going to do a podcast in front of a live audience.
That's going to be scary.
And it's going to be scary. So we just wanted to make sure you know that we continue to step outside our comfort zone despite now being old pros, frankly, at the podcasting thing. So we encourage you to keep pushing yourselves as well and to carve out time to think about your opportunities and business goals in new ways. We want to peel away any limitations you might have in the way you're thinking about your small business, working for yourself, or being entrepreneurial right where you are. Mm-hmm. You can stay connected with us and all the other listeners on your favorite streaming platform. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and at entrepreneuriallythinking.com. Follow the hashtag ETHINKSTL.
Yes. Well, we have a show today I think that's going to be very exciting. Supplier diversity is a business strategy that ensures a diverse supplier base in the procurement of goods and services for any business or organization.
And we mean any, right?
Exactly.
Like toilet paper to...
Yes.
I don't even know. Tomahawk missiles? Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And research shows that companies that embrace diversity are more profitable than companies that don't.
Uh-huh. Research people.
I was going to say this statistic really surprised me. This statistic stated that on average, supplier diversity programs add $3.6 million to the bottom line for every $1 million in procurement operations costs. Do y'all get that? Money. Did you get that?
So for every 1 million, I can make 3.6 more?
Absolutely.
By having diverse suppliers.
Every dollar you make, you get $3 back.
Tell me more.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is according to the 2015 study by the Hackett Group.
Awesome.
The high return on investment is just simply undeniable. Monsanto embraces and is strongly committed to inclusion and diversity in all areas of its business. To affirm this strategy with its suppliers, in 2014, they formally launched their Growing Together initiative in the form of their Supplier Diversity Mentoring Program. This is really an exciting program.
Yeah, they're not taking chances anymore. They've got a whole thing now to make sure that they're getting those $3 for every one that they're spending.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think what's so cool is that this is not a check the box. This is a 12-month development program which includes mentoring from Monsanto's executive leadership team, on-site training sessions with their subject matter experts, assessment evaluations, and access to an external professional coach. This is unbelievable.
Well, it makes my 10-week boot camp look like child's play. So anybody who thinks that that's too big of a commitment, I'm just saying, I'm not asking for 12 months of your time.
I know, but this is amazing. The goal is to develop diverse, certified suppliers who have the ability, capacity, and skills necessary to grow their business in profitability, business development, and business management skills. Today, we have joining us Dr. Damian Jones, Global Director of Diversity and Inclusion, and Daphne Pointer, North American Supplier Diversity Lead and creator of this new mentoring program. We're also joined by two recent graduates of this program, two women, of course. Mercedes Enrique, who's president of CMS Corporation, and Lisa Nichols, CEO of Technology Partners. So there's lots to cover today. So what we tell you always, stay listening.
Now here's Make It Happen with Keith Sales Pro.
How do successful people think? According to author Tom Black, of Boxcar Millionaire, here are 5 more beliefs of highly successful people. Successful people are willing to leave their comfort zones. Successful people are consummate professionals and behave accordingly. Successful people accept change as a part of life willingly and completely. And finally, successful people make decisions quickly and then take immediate action. Today, remember, it can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Follow Keith Sales Pro on Facebook or Twitter at Keith Sales Pro, or visit his website at keithsalespro.com.
It can happen. It will happen. And together, we will make it happen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Damian Jones, Global Director of Inclusion and Diversity at Monsanto. What thinking entrepreneurially means to me is finding that problem in the world that you want to solve and solving it, and taking the initiative to do it.
So, Damien and Daphne, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always good when we can bring in members of our established corporate community to help shed some light on how our local business owners, small business owners, and entrepreneurs can get connected and learn more about what you're doing, what your priorities are, and how we can all be of service to you as well. So, Damien, would you start us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing at Monsanto?
And that little company that you work for.
Well, it's a small,
you may have heard of it.
Startup.
Yeah.
We're not sure if it's going to take off.
Yeah, it's been a few years. We'll see.
Yeah.
Still yet to see. So thank you for having us. So my name is Damian Jones. I work in Inclusion and Diversity at Monsanto. Been with the company about 11 years. And in that space, kind of work around a lot of our people, community, as well as business and people process initiatives supporting inclusion as a culture in the organization, which we feel really drives innovation.
So, you said 11 years. Where were you before? And what made you decide to make the leap over to Monsanto?
So before I was in academia, I was a student, did some professoring as well on the side there, and some side business work on my own.
So you've been an entrepreneur yourself?
A little bit, yeah.
So you kind of understand that whole thought process, and as Christy always talks about from her family, making that paycheck and making that payroll, right?
Yeah, and making those transitions from working for yourself and working for others, knowing that that's a really fluid experience as well.
Absolutely.
And Daphne, your role at the organization, a little bit about you.
So I've been at Monsanto for 15 years now. My background is procurement, so I lead our North America supplier diversity efforts, working with minorities, women, people with disabilities, veterans, disabled veterans, and LGBT-owned businesses to get them incorporated within our procurement process at Monsanto.
And so when we say procurement, Cheryl and I work for relatively small operations. If we want to buy stuff, we make an appeal to one of our higher powers and we buy something. My husband works for a much larger organization. I always marveled at the fact that there was this whole separate procurement arm activity. So when we're talking procurement, are we talking everything, sort of soup to nuts at Monsanto? So if I need, and I'm not trying to be facetious, but if I need a Post-it to a supercomputer, everything's going through procurement? Absolutely. All goods and services that are needed for the organization, our procurement organization purchases. Awesome. It's part of our supply chain. Okay. Well, and I think that's important for people to understand that, because we don't all come from that experience, that, whether it's how you all are deciding who's going to clean the offices and what kind of toilet paper is going to be there, to what kind of chemicals are going to be used in the laboratory, and who's going to supply the hazardous waste disposal, assuming there is any. I don't even know. You all know that I know a little about a lot. That's all I can say. But that all those different functions across all different parts of the organization, there's a procurement aspect and a decision-making process and an entire structure built around that. And so we're going to delve into that a little bit more. Before we do, Damien, you said promoting inclusion as a culture that drives innovation. I know what all those words mean individually. What does that mean at Monsanto? So at Monsanto, when you think about it, going back to maybe 2000, we kind of became the new Monsanto. So we began to innovate purely agricultural business. And a lot of that really was driven by things that didn't exist in the industry at that time. So you're talking about, certainly you've heard about GMOs and things of that nature. But a lot of that really does... Can you tell our listeners what GMOs mean? Sure, genetically modified organisms. So a lot of the innovations and solutions we're providing farmers is within the seed. So being able to, for example, if you give seed to a farmer in Africa, the fact that you can have drought-tolerant seed is really helpful for them to be able to get the yield they need. So
The innovation needed for that really requires different people with different skill sets working together effectively across geographies. And so in order to do that and to have the competitive advantage, we know that advantage is our people. And so if that advantage is our people, then how do we create a culture where that group of people works together most effectively? And you can't do that if some people aren't really a part of the team.
Exactly.
And so at the end of the day, that really becomes our competitive advantage and what keeps us ahead of the curve.
So when you look at your procurement area and you're looking at diversity, what's the percentage of your suppliers how do they break out? I mean, from a diverse standpoint, can you guys speak to that?
So most of that information is confidential, Cheryl. But we do have a procurement strategy.
Which makes the best in class, so we can't begrudge that at all.
But we do have a procurement strategy that includes looking at diverse suppliers. And so our strategy is for every competitive bid that we send out, it includes a diversity supplier where applicable. And then we also have targets around our percentage spend of our overall procurement spend that will include a diversity supplier. And then also we have tier 2 efforts. Within our supply chain, we are not just holding Monsanto accountable. We're asking our first tier suppliers to look at their subcontractors or their firms that they work with on behalf of Monsanto. You're making purchases. Think about including diversity suppliers that's there as well.
I think that is such a strong message because it's not just Monsanto looking for it, but you're demanding that from, like you said, your tier 2 suppliers to say, hey, we want to look in through your supply chain and make sure that it's balanced as well. Because as we all know, diversity and inclusion, I always say this, it's not a nice thing to do. This is an economic driver for communities, for individuals, for businesses. So talk to us, because Daphne, you and I had a conversation about your minority program that you have, and I know it's an acronym, so it's MSDMP, I think that's what it is?
Yes, it's Monsanto Supplier Diversity Mentoring Program.
I think it's phenomenal. Can you give us just an overview? How did you guys come to develop it, and then what does that program look like?
So to be honest, the way that we developed it, it was at a Minority Business Council conference with my now global procurement lead, Peter Sternoff. We heard another company talking about what they have done around this area of developing their suppliers. And we both looked at each other and said, hey, we want to duplicate this and do it.
It's best practices, right?
Absolutely.
Looking at best practices.
Absolutely. So in 2014, we formally announced what we're calling our Growing Together initiative called Monsanto Supplier Diversity Mentoring Program. And so in January of 2015, we kicked it off with our first group, which was 6 suppliers. And now we are getting ready to have our second group graduate the end of April. And then we're looking for our third group to start in September of 2017.
Wow. So you guys went to a conference, implemented the program, and
best
now
practices.
And now have almost, you have 2 cohorts looking for the third. That's amazing. And this is some of the things that we talk about from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Go out there, look in the market, understand what those opportunities are and how you can improve your own business and improve it for, I think, the better. So
you've described Monsanto in the role of influencer, being able to encourage good behaviors and best practices among the suppliers you work with. And then the Minority Supplier Diversity Mentor Program, correct?
Yes.
Mentor.
Yes.
Is the word that sticks out for me there, actually. And so when we talk to small business owners, when we talk to scale-ups, startups, solo entrepreneurs, the mentor aspect is hugely important. The network and the mentor aspect, hugely important. To me, that's one of the distinguishing characteristics that must have piqued your interest when you were at that conference. So what does that mean for you, for the participants?
So when you look at our overall culture, and I'll let Damien elaborate on that, Monsanto has a mentoring sponsorship type of approach overall when you think about our employees especially around inclusion and diversity. And so when you have that type of culture, you bring that throughout your overall businesses. And so when it comes down to procurement, the mentoring program we have is 3-pronged approach. We have our executive sponsors, which is part of our Monsanto Advisory Council Inclusion and Diversity Committee. These are executives within our company that have volunteered to be in the program and meet with these mentees in the program every month to help them with their opportunities or gaps or goals that they set throughout the year. So then the other part of it, we have our executive coach. We've hired an executive coach to be part of the program and help ensure that they meet those goals after meeting with their executive sponsor. And then we have what's called subject matter experts around the business. So our program is around 12 curriculum items, and I just name a few of them. Procurement is one of them. Sales, marketing, finance, human resources, communication, sustainability.
Wow. So it's like an executive MBA.
Absolutely. It's being compared to executive MBA program.
And all through the lens of how you do all these things at Monsanto.
Absolutely. So it's our best practices. I like to say we open up our operations and we share our best practices for them to take that information and incorporate it into their companies.
So it's not just check the box, right, Damien? You guys are putting some real programming behind and support of your potential suppliers that could be supplying. So if I'm listening out here and I'm thinking, wow, you know what, how can I get involved with this? How do I even start the process with that? What do I do?
So I guess I'll let Daphne talk about it in terms of starting with the actual businesses. I think we have a website or we have a way that they can kind of log in, correct?
Yes. So if they email Supplier Diversity Mentoring at Monsanto.com, and then they can say they would like to apply. We have applications actually open till May 1st for the September class, but always send us information about it, because there's times where we may do something separate outside of the formal program and bring some of these training sessions just as a workshop or something like that.
So, Damien, talk to me about the vision of your organization and what you guys are. I hear about this fantastic program. So what other things are you guys doing?
So on a broad scale, like I said, we see the innovation and opportunity to really engage a lot of different people. And so there's a lot of work that has to happen systematically as we think about our people and business processes, as we think about how we engage our customers in a lot of different ways. So some of the things that we're doing as we think about this, Daphne talked about mentoring. We certainly do advocate mentoring. We've done that through a lot of our employee resource groups, which we call business resource networks. But we also do sponsorship, which, there's a difference between mentoring and sponsorship. Mentoring, you're talking with someone. Sponsorship, you're talking about them. Who are those people that are really in the rooms helping to make career decisions? So we've had formal sponsorship programs for the past 2 years with that same group that she referenced, our Monsanto Management Advisory Council. And so that group will mentor a select group of largely diverse executives or people who are up and coming to help them with their careers. We've also done some things around training and really giving some awareness and experiential kind of things in terms of unconscious bias. So we've driven that globally as we think about making ourselves aware of the biases that we have within our own cultures and how that can play out.
So is this just in your organization or is this Monsanto as a whole?
Oh, this is Monsanto as a whole.
That's great.
The executive team, our board, has made the commitment to really train all of our leaders around the globe. So that's over 5,000 people, and we're about 3,000 or so in that direction. Yeah.
So most employers don't spend a lot of time talking about things like unconscious bias. Even those who have a diversity or inclusion officer plan, program, what have you. How do those conversations get woven into the fabric of Monsanto?
So I think a lot of it came from the distinction between diversity and inclusion.
Yes, an important distinction.
A very important distinction.
Yes.
We talk about that, a lot of it even in our people management training, but we talk about the idea that while we've had historical focuses on diversity, at the end of the day, that really does come down to workforce composition. And it's easy for companies to slip into, from a compliance lens, that need of, let's count how many women we've got, how many people of color, et cetera.
Right.
But you may have them now, but you may not have them tomorrow if your culture isn't right. And you may not get new ones. And
are they in areas of leadership?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Are they moving through the pipeline?
Right.
Are we tracking that? And so that's where really inclusion comes in. Because what we say is, do we have an inclusive hiring process? Do we have an inclusive training and development program? Do we have an inclusive culture overall? And what do we do to really get to the core of that? And it's out of that conversation that we were able to get to things like, at the end of the day, it's the biases that we possess. And a lot of times we don't know we possess them.
Right.
But
They're unconscious. And there are blind spots.
Right.
Anybody who drives knows the blind spot is your weakest point.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So really taking this proactive approach to understanding how diversity becomes your competitive advantage, and then extending it out through things like the Supplier Diversity Program means that you can do that work both internally and externally, correct?
Absolutely.
And what I like about it's not just checking the box.
Well, and that's so important.
Yes.
I mean, whether you're checking the box because you're supposed to have more women and underrepresented minorities in an entrepreneurship program, or you're checking the box because you need to have workforce composition that is more reflective of X, Y, or Z. Neither of those are sufficient in doing what we all really want to do, which is make sure that opportunities are available to the widest number of people so that they can live up to their fullest potential. So, y'all have heard from us about how important it is for our listeners and our program participants to know that there are so many different ways that they can be involved in the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. And one of those ways is as a subject matter expert or as a mentor or as what I like to call entrepreneurially curious.
We just coined a new term here.
I'm trying. Just like, Daphne's branding the Minority Supplier Diversity Mentor Program, and I'm branding entrepreneurially curious. So I will say both of those as many times as possible, and neither of them roll off the tongue.
No.
So when we are successful, she and I are going to go hit the road because we're going to be able to explain how you do this kind of complex marketing to everybody else.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And Daphne and I, we're forging a partnership. We got your back. If you want to say something difficult, come see us. But all that being said is that, what I'm hearing too is that it's not sufficient just to make sure people understand that within Monsanto they can grow, but that externally those folks that you're doing business with sort of reflect those same values.
Absolutely.
And that's the authenticity piece that we always talk about as well.
Because I'd like to hear how your suppliers are engaging with you guys too, especially with the type of support and work that you're doing with this fantastic program. So we'll talk about that when we come back.
Let's just take 5 and address this stress. Are you afraid of illness or disease? Do you find it difficult to show your feelings? Are you irritated and cross without a cause? Do you experience a consistent lack of energy? Well, if you answered yes to 2 or more of these questions, you could use to reduce your stress. When we're experiencing too much lasting negative stress, we got to do something about it. The research is clear. Toxic stress is making us sick, but you can be alive and well. Find out more at aliveandwellstl.com.
So this is Daphne Pointer, Monsanto Supplier Diversity Lead. Entrepreneurially thinking to me is giving you an opportunity to continue to solve a problem or an issue and gives you the opportunity to work on your business during those times.
So Damien and Daphne have really laid out what the program is, how it works, why it's so important to Monsanto. So we really want to take this opportunity to see what it's meant to you both as participants, as business owners, as suppliers, as folks who are not only going to do business with Monsanto, but be out in the world doing business in a lot of different settings. Because I think this not only takes you to the next level in Monsanto's organization, but it's really a pathway to distinguish yourself among other suppliers. So if you would take a moment and introduce yourself, your company, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dig into what this opportunity has meant for you. Mercedes, would you start us off?
Sure. My name is Mercedes Enrique, and I am the president of CMS Corporation. And CMS is a construction company, and we provide services in the federal market for the Army, Air Force, Navy, and we provide construction services in the industrial commercial sector. And that is where Monsanto comes into play. And truly, we participated in a mentoring program, the Mentor Project program that the SBA has for 9 years with a large business while we were 8A certified. And
an important certification that our listeners have heard us talk about, especially as NGA gets bigger in North City. 8A is really important. So thank you for letting folks know that was part of your background.
And believe it or not, we are currently a mentor to 2 proteges that are 8A certified.
So it's giving.
So we have given back.
Right.
And
when did you guys start your company?
We bought the assets from an existing company in 2004.
Okay.
And 2 of us left our jobs and came full time.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
We did it like you, Christy. Just talking to you earlier.
Quit your job and just went for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sold my house. That money went.
Oh, God. I didn't sell the house. No, couldn't do that.
And moved to a little Matchbox, honestly, with 2 kids. And I figure, you know what? It has to work.
Right.
If you leave everything.
Well, failure's not an option. And it wasn't for me, but for sure it was not for you. Oh, my God.
Failure was not an option.
So if you need motivation, that's a great way to create it.
Go
right?
pour.
Sense of urgency?
Yes, absolutely.
Sense of urgency. Yes. That takes ramen noodle living to a whole new level.
I really got good at cooking. Let's just say that.
Oh, my goodness. And I love that you bought instead of built, because we often talk to entrepreneurs who build, which is great and wonderful, and we love that. Yes. But we really also want people to know that there are lots and lots of companies out there that are transitioning all the time, and there are opportunities to buy into the entrepreneurial experience as well.
So this former owner was retiring. He's selling the business, and he was a mechanical contractor. However, the government does not buy mechanical construction. They buy construction. So our challenge was to turn it from a mechanical construction company to a general construction company while continuing to self-perform the mechanical.
Are you an engineer by background?
I am. And so are the other 2 owners.
Mechanical engineering?
I'm actually a computer engineer.
Okay.
Yes. And then I worked after that, I worked for a year for Asigna Energy Services, and then had a full ride to do my MBA.
Oh, wow.
So I almost went undergrad, 1 year of work, MBA. Then I joined the workforce for 10 years with one company. I left Dana, actually, because we moved to Bloomington, Indiana. My ex-husband had an assignment, and he had followed me to 10 moves.
Wow.
And this time it was my turn to follow, and I actually quit Dana and nursed the second child.
Oh, my goodness.
And stayed a year, and then I was ready to go back.
I hear you.
And that was when CMS, when I started to seek an opportunity to invest. And that's how CMS was born.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we might have a whole nother show just on how you find these kinds of opportunities, vet these opportunities, and go to market.
Because a lot of people think, just like you said, Christy, that you got to build it. You do not have to build it. And in fact, if you have skills, if you have great skills, and you want to take those skills and not build it from the ground up, there are companies that are sitting right here in our beltway that have no succession planning in place, that are ripe for an acquisition. And
I want to tell you that I met Daphne through I am the chair of the Mid-States Minority Supplier Development Council.
Yes, okay.
And I met her because we came to an event at Monsanto, and I was so impressed. So I went back, and she talked about the mentoring program, and I thought, okay, we are mentors. I could learn how to be a better mentor. And we were proteges before. So And we are trying to grow our commercial industrial sector of the construction. So we said we want to be 70-30. So that's how I went to Daphne and said, Daphne, tell me a little more about the program. She said, I'd be delighted to. She's passionate about the program.
Yes, she
Clearly.
is. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, she is.
And so she told me more about the program, and I said, well, I'd be interested in applying. And she said, absolutely, please apply.
See, you never leave an opportunity unturned.
Yeah, you never know.
That's
you never know.
Kind of the,
Lisa, tell us about your story.
Sure. Well, it's a little bit different than
which is also what we love.
What she just described. So, first of all, what you'll notice about me is I have a little accent. But I've been here for 32 years. My husband and I were born and raised in Kentucky.
Oh.
When we first moved here 32 years ago, everywhere I went, people were like, where are you from? Are you from Texas? So I always say, if you think I have an accent now, you should have heard me 32 years ago. But, you know, it has
that
been...
That means you have flavor, darling.
Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that.
It's better than being a Yankee in Missouri, which is what I am.
But my husband and I were both born and raised there, went to Murray State University, and then we were recruited by McDonnell Douglas, both of us.
Oh, very cool.
So that's how you wound up here.
That's how we wound up here. I actually have a degree in accounting. So I went into corporate accounting for McDonnell Douglas, moved around to a lot of different areas over a 3-year period. I'd actually interned there in college.
Oh, wow.
So they said, when you graduate, if you want a job, you know, and if you remember, I'm not going to tell you when this was because then you can figure out how old I am.
And that's yours to keep to
yourself.
That's
I'm
right.
going to keep that to myself. But at the time, they were the largest employer in St. Louis. Awesome reputation, awesome culture. So I said, sure, you know, I'll do that. Well, my husband was a software engineer. So he sent one resume, and that was to McDonnell Douglas, and got hired. So that's what moved us. And it's so funny because when we moved here, we said to ourselves, we'll be here for 2 years and then we'll probably go somewhere else.
Right.
Yep.
And that was 32 years ago. And so,
I said that too, and it's 14 years later.
14 years later.
And she and her husband work together now.
Yeah, we do. So, but I will say
wife.
St. Louis has been really good to us.
It's been good to us, too.
And a lot of people, say, it's hard sometimes to break in. And I mean, it's been really good to us. I cannot complain. So I worked for a couple of Fortune 500 companies. My husband did too. I finally left after about 5.5 years. Loved McDonnell Douglas. I had amazing mentors there.
That's so important.
But kind of decided after 5.5 years, I think I need to do something besides accounting. So I went into sales for another Fortune 500 company and really loved that. Well,
now that is very different. Somebody who came out of accounting to go to sales, because normally those paths
do not mix.
Right.
Yes. Well, I do a lot of mentoring of young people now, and I always say, when I was going through school, there was no Myers-Briggs, there was no Strength Finders, there were no DISC assessments. Take every assessment you can, because probably if I'd taken those assessments,
I'd say the same thing. I would never have a job if I had to take those.
Yeah. Well, and you might have a totally different one.
And you may have a totally different one.
Right.
Exactly.
But Lisa, your personality lends itself to being in sales. So
I love people. I really do. I know that sounds very cliche. I love people. I find them fascinating, their stories. But we just celebrated our 23rd birthday last week. And so my husband and I, he worked for a couple Fortune 500 companies. I did too. And so we said 23 years ago, let's combine our strengths, because remember, he was a software engineer. Now I have accounting and sales background, and let's build a firm. And so a little bit different story than yours. We didn't buy into something. We started with nothing. Zero.
That is awesome.
And fortunately, people always say, how did you fund the company? Well, for us, fortunately, we did not live above our means. He continued to consult. I worked pro bono for many years. Free labor. But it was a crazy time, let me tell you.
That's usually the way a husband and wife team works. Somebody has to have that
stable income.
I mean, we've talked about how entrepreneurs actually aren't more risk tolerant. They're more strategically inclined to take risk in one area while mitigating risk in another.
Absolutely.
And keeping that consulting gig, being able to
pay our bills. And then I worked pro bono. It was a crazy time for us, though. I'd had our first child, our oldest, in 92, our second in 93, birthed a company in 94.
Oh, wow.
Had our third in 95. I mean, I just look back at those times.
The 90s were big for you.
Yeah, they were really big. Yes, they were, Christy.
You were busy.
It was a crazy
Well, 26 years later, you're still standing. The kids are doing well, I'm sure. So this is
great.
Technology
Partners today is...
Technology Partners today is, we're headquartered here. We're doing business in 32 different metros.
Wow.
We don't have brick and mortar in those 32, but we have a lot of clients that have taken us into those metros. We're an IT, information technology staffing and solutions company. We started more staffing. So when you think about staffing, that can be permanent staffing, that can be contingent labor staffing. Most of the major enterprise clients here in St. Louis, I'm very blessed to say that we are doing business with.
That's awesome.
So Monsanto has been a client of ours now for over 20 years. MasterCard International, Express Scripts, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Merritt's. We've got a great history with those companies.
That's interesting that you say both of you guys had relationships with Monsanto before you went into this mentoring program. So I think that that's something for our listeners to understand is that you guys weren't just straight out of the box as suppliers to the company. And I think that's, it's such a wonderful program. And I think we'll certainly get into depth about, what did you guys learn? What were the things that were aha moments for each one of you? But I think it really hits home that Monsanto is supporting not just young businesses, but existing relationships that they have with companies to make them even greater, and to make them more impactful, I think, in our community as well. So
let's take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about that.
Hi, my name is Mercedes Enrique. I am with CMS Corporation. And thinking entrepreneurially for me means being open to seeing the trends and the opportunities and not being afraid to pursue them.
Lisa Nichols, I'm the CEO of Technology Partners. Thinking entrepreneurially to me is really being able to see the possibilities and then having the grit and the go get 'em to go do it.
So what's truly amazing about this program is that there are folks who are just starting out. It maybe not as new companies, but as new to Monsanto.
Yes.
And there are suppliers who have been working, in Lisa's case, for over 20 years with the company who also opted into a 12-month program.
12-month and highly, highly selective.
Right.
I did not know they received 300 applications. This is only their second year in existence.
300 applications. How many people in the class?
8.
8. So highly selective. And a lot of times established business owners will say, you know, what's in it for us? Like, where's the contract? Where's the ROI? And I could even see folks saying, well, I've already got the business, right? So Lisa, you already had the business.
Absolutely.
So why was this an important program for you to participate in?
Well, for one thing, I mean, we are all about continuous improvement. I mean, we have accomplished a lot, and I'm very blessed and feel grateful for that. But we also realize we got a long way to go. And I will tell you, I mean, Monsanto, we have been doing business with them for over 20 years. We have been working with them so long that we have seen how they operate, and they are best in class. I mean, they really are. And so to have the opportunity to learn from best in class, was a tremendous.
Couldn't say no.
I couldn't say no. Absolutely. We at least had to put our name in the hat.
Right. Because this was a commitment at the CEO level, correct?
Yes. That's right.
This
The
wasn't
CEO,
send somebody on your behalf.
You know, we could bring our functional heads,
Right.
which was awesome. But yeah, the CEO, they said, you have to be there. You know, you have to commit.
That's huge.
It was, you know, a couple of days a month, and you know.
Well, I think what's really telling is not just being exposed to their business programs and practices, it's access to their leadership.
Absolutely.
So Mercedes, tell us what that was like for you guys. I mean, because having access not just to, you know, managers, product managers or whatever, you're talking having access to their executive leadership
The C-suite, as you might say.
Yes. And I have to say that was a treat in itself. Not only did we have access to all the subject matter experts, but we could go back and talk to Jesus Madrazo was our executive sponsor, and he was our mentor in that respect, and we talked to him once a month.
What was his level in the organ? What was his title?
So he reports to the president of Monsanto. And he has been promoted twice, I think, since we have been working with him. The beautiful thing, and the beautiful thing about Monsanto is that titles don't really matter. The level of engagement, and actually that is what I want to tell you, is where we really picked on our executive sponsors' time. We noticed at the very beginning of the program that not only my encounters with Monsanto and my exchanges through the mid-states involvement, was I impressed with Monsanto, but then we started the program and we met Jesus, and he is so humble. I don't think he would tell us what his title was. We went a couple months before we really knew what he really, but he could absolutely represent Monsanto. And we finally said, Jesus, we want to understand what is the formula. The level of engagement of everyone we met is phenomenal. And what is the formula? So we spent hours with him where we would just ask questions. And my brother, Ernest, who's also an owner of CMS, and I participated. So we made the commitment together.
That's awesome. Wow. So two owners.
You're talking 2 owners and the 2 highest ranking people in CMS. And Jesus was just so gracious. And he, at the end of the day, it truly is a formula that they have perfected. People are engaged. They act like owners, owners of whatever they are doing.
What was the best advice that he gave you?
Well, the best advice was people need to be given the opportunity to run with whatever they're passionate about. So it is giving people the reins to pursue their passion and to open the doors. And they expect. He actually mentors other people within the organization. And it is a formal process for the C-suite.
Right.
It is. They
so it's
take
part
this
of their job
seriously.
responsibilities.
Yes.
Absolutely. And they expect the same. And working with others is part of the expectation. So when they actually sit with you to tell you what they expect of you as a contributor and as a part of Monsanto, they tell you, we want you to mentor others. We want you to work with others, and we want you to do a beautiful job at what you do. And whatever resources that you need, you let us know.
That's why I think this is not a check-the-box type of commitment.
Well, clearly not.
Because they are mirroring what they tell their employees inside to what the relationship that they have with their suppliers outside.
Yeah. Lisa, did you find that it changed the culture of your company?
It really definitely made me want to do more, you know, culture-wise, because as Mercedes said, I mean, it's like, what is in the water here?
And I don't mean to suggest that your culture needed to radically change, but it sounds like with that level of mentoring,
absolutely,
that there's a lot to bring back even to a very well-established company.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what I would say is, you know, we got so much information. I mean, it was like drinking from the fire hose.
And not just about how to do business with Monsanto, clearly.
No, not at all about how to do business necessarily with Monsanto. One session was procurement.
And all the rest was about being better at what you do.
What is your social media strategy? What is your marketing strategy? What's your sales strategy? How are you compensating your people? Here's different compensation models.
Marketing was very early on.
Huge. What else? Change management. It's not
HR was phenomenal. Change management.
Change management. It's not change management. It's change leadership.
So fascinating, because what you guys can't see as listeners is that they
the level of interaction.
Oh my gosh, it is like you guys bonded during that 12-month cycle.
Oh my goodness, Cheryl. That's what I would say. Our class almost instantaneously bonded. And I just think that was really special. And, you know, we learned from one another as much as we were learning from Monsanto. You've got, you know, 7 other, in our case, 8 other, because with Mercedes and Ernest being part of it, people that are running companies every day and they're living it. And so we would like learn from each other.
We had one session, Lisa, where they dedicated it to succession planning, and nobody from Monsanto was there. They let us do it amongst ourselves and to learn from each other. And we had our external coach was a facilitator. And I have to tell you, that is where I realized not only did I enjoy working with all of you, I truly realized we have become true friends.
Right. That's what I was
because you are sharing the weaknesses of your company openly and saying, you know what, this happened to me. What would you do? We shared actual documents that we had, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel if I have it or if I've done
it. That's a high level of trust.
Well, and a high level of vulnerability to be able to say, these are the things, it's not just this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm not good at, but these are the things I don't even want to admit to myself, and now I'm going to share them with you, because if I don't, I'm never going to get past this. And I've only had one other opportunity to be in a room where there was that level of vulnerability among people who you would expect to not, you know, necessarily divulge that much of themselves or that much about their company. And it was transformative. So I can only imagine what a 12-month experience like that must have been.
It was amazing. We all left our egos at the door.
Yes.
There was no posturing. I mean, we were completely transparent with one another. And
I think that, you know, having a relationship with each other like that, as well as with Monsanto, how does that set you guys up for the future? Because it seems like you guys have definitely formed a relationship there. Do you see yourselves able to leverage expertise off of each other?
Absolutely.
Yes, and we actually have brainstormed. And said, okay, how could we JV to do something? So we truly, and you're talking IT and some of your expertise in construction, but truly, I mean, one of the most amazing classes was the analytics. So Monsanto is so far ahead of the curve in terms of the data collection has been there for many, many years, but they have gone
now using
to the
taking it to the next level.
Pondering artificial intelligence, data analytics, and we're thinking, okay, that's another area of an opportunity for us. So here they have opened the door, the windows, everything is open for us to learn what their challenges are, what they're looking for, and we are all in business. And we're all entrepreneurs. So, of course, our wheels are turning, and we're thinking, what else? What else can we do?
Well, and so for anyone who's afraid of talking about their ideas because they're afraid they're going to be stolen, if the biggest companies with the largest capacity to potentially steal can have this level of trust and peer learning and open kimono perspective, it just reinforces what we've always told our early stage entrepreneurs, which is the more minds on this, whatever you're working on, the more minds, the better. Because either they're going to help you fail fast or they're going to help you grow quickly.
And that's what innovation is about. And what we always say in this ecosystem, large companies like Monsanto, if you are not supportive of young businesses, small businesses, you're missing the mark in a lot of respects, because you guys bring talent, you bring expertise, and I think you bring, the ability to move a lot faster than large organizations
Lisa,
can.
would you say that it was a very humbling process?
Oh, it definitely was. I said, the amount of information, the process, the methodology that they went through, the sophistication was a little daunting. It really was.
I can only imagine.
But I would say this, as great as Monsanto is, they didn't get there overnight.
Right.
And they would even share some of the things, we weren't really focused on this, but now we are.
So tell us, each one of you, what was the thing that made you say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this about your business, or about creating new relationships?
Or about myself.
Yeah, because this is not just a Monsanto relationships. This helps you become a better supplier for any other company, right?
Absolutely.
So what was the aha moment? Yeah.
I had several.
Yeah, I did too.
But
How much time do you have, Cheryl?
Yes. I can tell you the first one.
Yes.
So my first one was that, what water are they drinking?
Yeah.
Truly.
What's in the water?
What's in the water? Because
everybody was singing the same song.
The level of engagement. But then you go and you check statistics of Monsanto's people and Monsanto's engagement, and they are best place to work, not only in the continental U.S., but abroad. So they are continuously ranked at some of the best companies out there. So it shows in the people. And that is when Ernest and I said, okay, you always have your A players, your B players, and hopefully you don't have any C's, right? But it does happen, and we were looking at people differently, and we said, no, everyone, we should be able to get the best of everyone in the organization. So a couple things that we did is we started a recognition committee, because it has been found that a direct link to engagement is recognition.
Absolutely.
So we actually are not part of the committee. They are doing it. I hear amazing things about it. And people are feeling engaged, and they're feeling that they can make a difference in the company.
They're part of something.
Yes.
They're part of something.
So I have to tell you, that was an aha moment for us, where we had the executive team did a great job. We had structured meetings and unstructured meetings. We knew the direction. Our communication is awesome, but we had not really deployed it to the level that Monsanto has done.
That's awesome.
Wow. How about you, Lisa?
Well, as what Mercedes said, we had aha moments every session. But, something to piggyback off of Mercedes, the level of engagement, is so high there. But also realize that they do that with intentionality.
Right.
That doesn't
happen.
Just happen
By mistake, or
they
just
have to be very intentional. So this program with Monsanto, I said, really, it allows you. So many times you are just on this hamster wheel. You're just trying to keep up and survive, right? And it really does allow you to step back, and you hear the old adage, working on your business and not in your business. I do have a little bit of advice for anybody, though, that we can talk about that. I would say, just schedule a day after. Because to take all of that information,
whatever your learning opportunity is,
try to put it into some sort of form of a roadmap so that you can go through it with your team. Because if you don't take that time, it's like the next day, it's going to be same old, hamster wheel, and you're not going to take that time to really synthesize and figure out how to apply what you're learning. But, I had ahas at every session, but I would say like in HR, for instance, and I have to say with technology, and you guys all know this, the demand right now is so outweighs our supply of talent. And so as a company, we have to to be thinking every day, our people are being courted.
Sure.
There's no doubt about it. They are being courted by other companies. So one of the things that Monsanto was, which was a huge aha for me, we always do exit interviews when people leave, and we ask them a whole series of questions. We go through that. We take the good, bad, the ugly,
right.
and say, okay, what can we fix here? Fortunately, there's a lot of good, which is awesome. But what they do is they do what's called stay interviews, not an exit interview.
Why are you staying with the company?
That is brilliant.
Why are you
That is
staying?
brilliant.
Why are you still here? What is it that makes you want to be here?
I need to do those for me, for my business.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was just a real aha. It's like, wow, why wouldn't you do that? Why would you wait?
That is.
That is so smart.
Until somebody ends up leaving.
I
and
think
it's too
what's-
late.
They're listening to you
Absolutely.
before you're ever, and they are asking, what could we do? What can you do and can we do to make your job better?
Well,
God.
this is like unbelievable. I was you all's guest speaker at your graduation.
Oh, you did such an awesome
And
job.
I was just blown away by the camaraderie between your class, but just not with your class, with the employees there and the senior leadership that was there to support you in graduation. Again, this wasn't something like, okay, we got another cohort out, we're done.
I mean, clearly what Monsanto understands is that if it's going to have good suppliers, which are crucial to its business success, they have to be successful whether they're doing business with them or not.
And it's
right?
intentional. I think what you said, Lisa, is so key.
So they want Lisa and Mercedes to grow their companies because the bigger their companies are, the stronger and healthier their companies are, the better supplier they can be to them.
As we go back
so
to...
we love that enlightened self-interest, and the fact that that turns into all of this learning, mentoring, and support for you all
And
is
for every
phenomenal.
dollar that they spend,
You get $3 back.
You get $3 back.
I want to give you one example, and this was the very last day at graduation. So the night before, we went for the dress rehearsal, and the gentleman that runs the videotapes and the mics was there, and here's a C-suite member that said, why don't we have more mics? And he said, nope, we can have more mics. And Ernest and I just smiled to each other, and we loved it, because that is an example of what Monsanto's like. An expert is an expert, and your voice matters, and your opinion matters, and it doesn't matter who you're with.
Right.
And titles really don't matter. What matters is your responsibilities and what you contribute. And then we went the day before graduation. We had a supplier day, and we were invited, which was really a privilege.
Yes, it was.
And so here's their strategic suppliers, which we all aim to be. And here we are, the mentoring class. And I went and talked to the young people from Monsanto that were at each of the tables during the break. We had a break, and we had people that had set up, and they could tell us about their latest climate systems that they have, and the latest root growing seeds that really allow the root to grow much deeper.
Right.
So I'm talking to them, and the level of passion by this, and then I asked them their personal story, and you can talk to any Monsanto person and they will tell you their personal story and why they're there and why it is meaningful to them to be part of Monsanto.
That is
an amazing formula.
That's impactful.
Well, they live the culture, they show it, they breathe it.
Right.
It's there.
And
It's
they map back what they're doing to the overall mission.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I love the mission of Monsanto. It's to feed the world.
That's right.
I'm like, what a great mission statement, you know?
It moves you. It moves you.
does.
Yes.
It does.
You are
So
growing
passionate.
together. Think about the name of our...
Well, we could go for another
I
hour.
know. I'm like,
unfortunately, we
We've
can't.
come to the end of it, as usual.
So on that note, thank you so much for
Yes.
spending your precious time with us and sharing what you've learned. And clearly, Cheryl and I will be trying to figure out how we get ourselves somehow into a Monsanto experience.
Mentoring program.
Or at the very least, take you out to coffee on a regular basis so that we can get the contact high off of you as graduates.
We'd be happy to.
So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share your wisdom with our listeners. We want to make sure that they can find you. So Lisa, where would they find Technology Partners?
Yes, our URL is technologypartners.net. And if they want to connect with me personally, they can email me at lnichols@technologypartners.net or send me a LinkedIn message. I'm on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. And Mercedes, where can we find CMS?
Yes, so our website is www.cms-monsanto.com. CMS-corporation.com. And my email to follow Lisa's is M, so the first initial of my name, Enrique, ENRIQUE, at CMS-corporation.com. And I am on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and we have a Twitter account for CMS as well. So any of those means work.
Fantastic.
Just
thank you so much for being with us and sharing your wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you
so
for
much.
having us.
Thank you for having us.
It's a privilege.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.